Thank you for joining us today. We're here to look at the benefits of outsourcing. First of all, let me introduce ourselves. I'm Samantha Wildman, Group Client Director here at MPA. MPA are a firm of professional service providers looking after SME businesses. I'm joined today by another part of our group, EFM, Ronny.
Hi, good afternoon.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. So I'm Ronny Munster, qualified accountant of many years standing, and I've been working with EFM for over 10 years now. And for the benefit of our viewers and listeners, what EFM do is provide outsource financial services, everything from bookkeeping and payroll to finance directors, CFOs, and advisors to companies.
Excellent. And that works really nicely with the rest of MPA, where we're looking after accounts, R&D, tax, and other services that SMEs have.
I think between us, the world we cover is the SME world, which is everything from startups, small companies, to companies 20, 30 million pound turnover. We cover every financial need that a business might need, and others as well.
We're going to look at 4 key areas. They are: how does outsourcing help to grow your business? What financial functions can you actually outsource? What is a part-time FD, also known as a fractional CFO, and how does that work? And we'll also look at some other areas that you can outsource, such as your R&D tax credits. Ronny, most of the people we speak to are SMEs and they're looking to grow.
Yeah.
How does outsourcing help them to grow their business?
So outsourcing really is a way of reducing your costs for a business. And outsourcing involves many different aspects of the business. People, when they're growing a business, when they're trying to start a business, they're kind of running around doing 100 different things at once. I think we've both seen that many times. When you outsource, what you do is you devolve responsibilities to professionals. And in our world, the finance world, what we do is we enable them to have bookkeeping services, payroll services, tax, VAT, production of management accounts, people to write reports in terms of things like management accounting reports or cash flow, planning, budgeting. Those are all tasks that need to be done by every business, whether it's a one-man business just starting up or a 200-man company turning over 30 million a year. And when you outsource, what you do is you lower your cost base because you're not employing people. And you're also normally getting experts involved. One of the things I've seen as I've travelled is one company in particular, they had their mother-in-law doing the books and another member of the family doing something else. And it was all a dreadful mess. And you don't want that. What you want is professional people who do this day in, day out. And the advantages of the outsource are, it's on a contract basis, you can set service levels and terms. But also, as you outsource more senior level staff, finance directors, tax professionals and so on, we get involved in other things. So for example, if you're negotiating with a bank, if you're negotiating with lenders, they can help you with that. Finance directors, the other thing they can do, for example, is they can work on your decision making. You might have all these great plans about, we'll do this and then we'll do that. And somebody else comes in, they're objective about it, and they say, well, have you thought of this? Maybe that's not such a good idea. Because a lot of us are past the age of 21. We've got a number of years experience. And we've seen, the financial cycle of every business is often very similar, and we've seen these things before. So we can come along and we can challenge and provide objective opinion. So outsourcing, what it does is it's a way of having experience, wisdom, professionalism at a much lower cost base. And as you need services or don't need services, you add and remove them as appropriate.
Excellent. I know of a lot of my clients, they like to work on the technology side of things.
Yes.
And the business side of things come separate.
Yeah.
So, outsourcing allows you to have a team to support you.
Yeah.
Those bits of the business that you maybe don't really want to do that yourself.
Yeah. And I'm sure you found the same. There are many of our clients who don't even understand the bank. I've got a bank account and I've got my statutory account, and why do I need it? And our job as professionals is to explain that it just helps structure the business. It helps remove responsibility from making a mess of things to professionals. And it just means that you make better decisions, because if you're getting financial data in the right way, then you can understand what's happening, what's good, what's bad, and make appropriate decisions or make tax claims, which is, where MPA come in. So, yeah, outsourcing is a great way to help a business grow and develop.
Ronny, what financial functions can you actually outsource?
There isn't anything that you can't outsource. And at EFM, we provide bookkeepers, for example. So it's a very basic thing. Your transactions go in and out of a bank account. Well, what do you do with it? So you use bookkeepers to record that. And then there are other transactions like VAT. Unfortunately, most of us suffer VAT. Well, that needs to be dealt with. So we can provide people, and that's normally part of the bookkeeping service, but is VAT reconciliations, making sure that the taxman is happy with what we supply. And then you've got things like debtor management. We've got all these lovely clients and we've sold them stuff, and well, they need to pay. And they haven't paid, so debtor control is a big one. And then obviously we might have suppliers and we don't really want to pay them, but that needs to be controlled as well. And then actually making the payments. So that kind of is payroll, bookkeeping, and so on. And on the subject of payroll, that's a specialism in itself. Again, most business people know you've got to pay national insurance. These days you have to pay pension contributions. It's all part of the payroll process, which is not very exciting, but again, it needs to be done properly. If you get it wrong, you can get fined, and you don't really want that. And you want to know that it's done properly. So you would call in, the right people. And again, EFM have got all those specialists to provide those services, which is great. And then in terms of services provided, outsource, we do financial controllers. So they take an overarching view of all the bookkeeping transactions that have happened and make sure the things that should balance, and the people that have been paid should be paid, and that it all makes sense. And they produce normally a form of reporting, which we call management accounts. And that normally comprises a profit and loss statement telling you how well you've done in the period that you're looking at, a balance sheet, which is another form of summary, and then there are obviously other ad hoc reports. And then the finance director comes in normally over that and has a different view on that. And that's how it works. So there's a lot of people from our side that we can provide. So there's no financial service that we can't cover.
So you yourself are a financial director. You
Yes.
go in and help clients with that. When they call you in to help, what type of projects do you normally work on?
So there's a number of one. They're really quite varied, and the industries that I cover as well as we cover are quite varied. Sometimes there's a crisis where, for example, they're hitting a bit of a cash crunch. As we know, the economy's in, shall we say, a challenging situation at the moment, and all they can see is red numbers, and they don't understand what to do. So the first thing we will do is we'll look at building them a cash forecast. And you'll be surprised at how many businesses don't forecast their cash, or they think they do, but then they forget about, oh yes, I've got to pay the tax man and I've got to pay this supplier. And one of the mantras we have is every business should have, it doesn't matter whether it's successful, new, young or old, it's got to have a 90-day forecast. You've got to know what's coming in and going out. And our expertise in putting that together, putting a reassuring arm around the financial director or the business owner and say, okay, we understand what's going to happen, and now we can make the changes in order to ensure that you survive, whether it means negotiating with a bank or with a supplier. HMRC are very good at scheduling payments over a period of time as well. So that's one example. Another example is just coaching a business owner. They might have grown quite quickly, but they're unsure how to expand the business, not in terms of acquiring new businesses, but I need to take on senior staff. How do I organise board meetings or management meetings? How do I delegate responsibility? All these kinds of things, and that's the kind of work we get as well. And I get in particular is helping coach business owners to go from that early growth stage to the next stage.
So when we're talking about growth businesses, and again, a lot of the businesses that I deal with are quite technology based. So for them, raising finance is a big area, and it's not easy. As a as an FD? Is that one of the things that you can take on as well?
Yeah, we take that on. So there are different aspects to that. One is we can help them prepare for that. Most companies use what's called a pitch deck, and the preparation of a pitch deck is actually quite important to get right. And again, myself and my colleagues, we've got years of experience of doing that. So it's framing that, and the pitch deck is saying to a potential investor, this is what's so great about this company, this is why you should invest. So you need to know what to put in it. You don't want to oversell it, you don't want to undersell it. So that's a big help. And then talking to investors, because if you've worked with the company, then you'll understand the structure of the business in terms of its financial opportunities and so on, and conveying that in a financial way to third-party investors, because they like to know that, because business owners are always positive and enthusiastic. But as you see on programs like Dragon's Den, for example, the business owners don't actually necessarily understand their own numbers. So if you've got a finance person in there, they typically will understand the numbers and they can talk about ratios and margins and all these kinds of things, which will provide investors and lenders, that degree of comfort that there's somebody who knows what they're doing.
Excellent. So it sounds very varied.
It is really quite varied. Yeah, it is. And it's also a reflection of the economy. When the economy is doing well, you have different opportunities. It's often about growth. We want to acquire a business. We want to sell the business. Whereas in times now, it's about the challenges and what can you do to meet those challenges. And I had a call from a client yesterday who's got a particular challenge. And I just gave him a couple of ideas and he said, I hadn't thought of that. So that's going to save him a little bit of cash. And it's that experience that we bring that is really helpful to our clients.
Use terms like part-time FD, fractional CFO. What do they actually mean and how does it work?
So a part-time FD or fractional CFO is somebody who's usually self-employed. The model we have here is we're associates. So we work under an umbrella organisation, but we each have numerous clients. And so we're not employees of the clients and we're not employees of the overall EFM network, if you like. We work for ourselves and we engage individually with the clients, but we do it under this umbrella organisation. And that works on many levels, from a marketing perspective, from a legal perspective as well. And it's also from a collegiate perspective. So, for example, I'm starting a new project based in the Midlands with a colleague who's looking after a particular aspect of this client's work, focusing very much on the technical. And on the other hand, I'm working on another aspect. But it's a collegiate approach. We all work together. We're throughout the whole country. There's a lot of us. I think there's 50 to 60 of us around the country. And we work for ourselves, but we work together. And it actually creates a really good professional network. And it enables us to deliver more because it's the sum of the parts. And that really is important.
And I suppose from a client's perspective, as you say, you're not on payroll, you're under contract.
Yeah.
And that could be a daily rate.
Yes.
A project rate.
Yes. Yes, I've worked on both. I've done a project where it's a fixed fee. You do a certain amount of work in a certain amount of time, or it's on a day rate where you do X number of days per week, per month, whatever it is. And most of the contracts I've been involved in are rolling contracts. So it's not like it's a 12-month contract. I just roll it from month to month. And my longest month-to-month one is coming up for 7 years now. So, and a lot of my colleagues are in the same boat. It's because you build trust, as you know, for MPA. It's all about that relationship. If you've got that face-to-face relationship with your client, that's what works best. And providing you're delivering a service is brilliant. It's about people and people getting together.
Another question that I know some people struggle to understand is the difference between an FC, financial controller, an FD, financial director, and a CFO, chief financial officer. Does it really matter?
I think it matters to a certain extent, yes. The way I see a financial controller is they are the controller of the day-to-day operational transactions of a business. So you have the bookkeeping staff. They can be in-house or out-house, but the financial controller, what they do is they make sure that all the transactions are properly booked, properly allocated, everybody's paid that should be paid, all the money's collected in and all that sort of stuff. And they produce a report on that, which is these management accounts and et cetera, et cetera. The financial director typically will be there to provide guidance and strategy, help with budgeting and forecast. So they're able to stand back, they're able to look at the data, have a view on it and liaise with the business owner or the existing senior executives of the business and say to them, okay, this is what the data is telling us. Shall we do this or shall we do that? You know, what's the consequences of this? The CFO, and there is, you know, a grey area between FD and CFO in terms of the terminology, is kind of even more elevated. Really, they're about strategic thinking, you know, and therefore their role encompasses not numbers, but it could be, well, shall we buy another business or shall we sell this business? Or look, we're running out of cash, let's go to a lender or an investor. Or even, you know, reward plans for staff. So it's a very senior person to sit alongside normally the business owner and feed into them, and they kind of have a very close relationship, or they should do, to drive a business forward in whichever direction it needs.
So, I mean, a lot of the clients that I work with, they've got financial controllers who are keeping everything on a day-to-day basis running really smoothly and really well. But there still could be an advantage for them to have a part-time FD to come in and do that sort of next level of strategic overview type work. And even those with financial directors, as the business is growing and things are getting more complicated and, as you say, a lot more high-level strategy thinking, having an FD but then still having a part-time CFO as well.
Yeah. So, for example, I'm working with a business who've got an FD who's been in place as an FD for about a year. The group's undergone a lot of changes, and my role is to coach the FD so he can produce the best information and the best data for his new CEO. So that's his challenge. It's not that he doesn't understand the business and doesn't understand management reporting, but all of a sudden he's got to juggle different priorities, and it's a challenge for him. But exactly as you say, it's somebody who can step in and make those, if you like, recommendations, but also the challenges. I mean, I've had numerous conversations over the years where clients says, I'm going to go and do this. And I said, well, have you thought about it? And he said, yes, of course I have. Have you really thought about this? Because I can't see the sense in that. And you do it in the nicest, politest way. But because you've got that trust, then sometimes they say, yes, you're right. And sometimes they just march ahead and make the mistake anyway. Yeah. But, you know, it's just providing a sounding board. I sometimes describe what we do at a very senior level as being a therapist, you know, and it's because you're listening. Most of what you're doing is listening, and then you're feeding back and trying to guide, usually, as I say, the business owner into the right direction. But we live in challenging times, and it's very difficult for everyone to make those right decisions when it's hard to see what's coming around the corner. But hopefully, if you've got everything in place in terms of your structure and business and reporting, then you've got a better sense of where to go.
Excellent. So in some circumstances, you can provide that role that's not there, but for other companies, you can actually be enhancing the people that are already in the business and, you know, the financial controllers and the FDs that are already there. You're adding that extra level of enhancement.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. I mean, one of the big things is key performance indicators, KPIs. People talk about that all the time. What's a KPI? Do we need a KPI? I'd say every business should have it. It doesn't matter how you measure it. It might be cash in the bank as one key KPI, or it could be the amount of revenue per staff. Whatever it is, you should have measures of a business that you look at and you understand and are easy to obtain. You don't want complicated algorithms, so that you can understand which direction is the business is going, how's it going. Oh, that's gone down, that's gone up, whatever it is. Let's understand it and then make adjustments accordingly. So yeah, you're right. So we've spoken quite a lot about what EFM do and the services we provide, but obviously MPA provide outsourced R&D tax credits. Tell me about that. How does that work?
Well, as everybody will know, R&D tax credits can be an absolute vital resource back into the business, either reducing corporation tax or providing a tax credit back in or tax relief back in. There has been so many changes in the R&D world, and there's more coming down the line. HMRC are very keen to make sure that the money they're investing into innovation businesses is actually getting them a return on investment. So making sure that claims are eligible, they meet HMRC's criteria is really important. And if you are getting 50,000 back, £100,000 back, you just imagine how much net profit you have to make
Yes.
to the equivalent of that. So it's very important that you make sure that the claim that is going into HMRC meets all their, at the moment, seems to be ever-changing needs. So working with a specialist firm who do two things: understand the technology that you're working in, so have people who understand engineering, manufacturing, IT, quantum physics, all of that sort of area that you could be working in, to speak to your people to uncover the eligible activity, but also do it day in, day out, so they know what HMRC are looking for, so they can make sure that they can present your R&D. And unfortunately, R&D is talking about the technical challenges that you have and the things that don't go to plan, and being able to put that across to show how you are moving technology forward, not just your industry, but technology as a whole, and have someone to do that for you, write that in the way that HMRC wants to see it, and then determine what costs go together. It's really important for you to secure that amount of money that comes into your business. And we know from most of our clients that that money is reinvested straight back into the business again to allow them to grow. So working with a specialist firm who can really understand you and understand HMRC is a really great way of securing that financial benefit that you're getting.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, we know, because we spoke recently about a client where the accountant, the normal statutory accountant in previous years, has sent just the number they think is relevant for R&D purposes to HMRC, and in the past that was accepted.
Yeah.
You can't do that anymore, can you?
No. HMRC have really tightened up. They've got a set way now that they want to receive the information. You can't just put a number on a CT 600 and put it through. You've got to fill out a form beforehand, answering certain questions, and you've got to have all that technical justification for it. More importantly, what HMRC are doing now to make sure that their investment is worthwhile is checking those claims. So you need to also be able to be in a situation where you can go back and defend what you've put in if needed to, back it up and support it. So having done that technical investigation beforehand is a big part of your claim. It's just not a number on a CT 600. And I speak to a lot of people who say we've claimed successfully in the past, so I'm happy with what we've done. The past is completely different now from what HMRC have put in place from August 23, when they made the big changes. So being able to make sure that you're up to date and reviewing maybe what you've done in the past and how it now fits into the new criteria is really important, and making sure you get that right advice.
Right.
I suppose you've got to get it right because it's tax.
Yeah. So in simple terms, if you're, I don't know, inventing some new gadget or software or whatever, you're writing out an explanation of the challenges that you've faced when creating this new item, and you're documenting that, and then HMRC, they're actually going to go through it and say, yeah, that makes sense or not. That's the essence of what you're saying.
Yes, or Google.
Yeah.
How do you do this? Or is there anybody else out there doing it?
Yeah.
So yes, there could be other people use a mobile phone, because most people got one in our pockets. Yes, there are other mobile phone people out there, but you may have done something completely new or different.
Yeah.
And it's explaining how you've got to that place, not necessarily what the features and benefits are. The challenges you overcame to get to that new bit of technology that you've added onto that mobile phone.
Right. And my understanding as well, it's not R&D, it can be research or it can be development. It doesn't have to be both?
A little bit. Now, some people do get a little bit confused with research, and they'll come and say, well, we've gone out and we've looked at the market to see if there's anything there. I've done research. your research has to have a direct link to the development.
Right, okay.
And that's really important.
Right.
It's not fact-finding and it's not knowledge transfer, but it could be, actually, I needed to look at that to feed that bit of data into what I'm doing. So that's where the research part comes into it.
Right. And it's not just about the cost of machinery or gadgets, it's people form part of that R&D claim, don't they?
People do tend to take up or make up the largest part of the claim, but then there can be materials. Machinery wouldn't necessarily go in because it's a fixed asset that you'd be using maybe for commercialization of what you're developing.
Right.
But materials and people, and most development is time, is the biggest resource that you're using.
Yeah.
So that's what you're putting into the claim.
And obviously the advantage of using services like yours is you're up to date. So as the rules change, you can bring forward those new changes to your clients and explain whether it affects them or not.
Yes, and the changes that are coming in and keeping you up to date, but also helping you understand how those changes are going to affect future claims. So a while ago, when it was announced that overseas costs couldn't be included in your R&D claims, if you use subcontractors abroad, you couldn't use them. Now, most clients, financial year end, you spent the money, you do your accounts, you do your corporation tax, you claim R&D. So people have already spent the money when the changes are coming through.
Yeah.
So being able to help model how that's going to affect you for the future.
Yeah.
And for your forecasting, we talked about forecasting earlier.
We did.
Being able to help with all of that is part of the service that we would offer as well.
Yeah. So, and I suppose the final point on the outsource, you're an external firm, you come in, and that's your role. It's to look at that R&D piece as well, entirely. I mean, you're not looking at other parts of the business. It's just about determining what's needed for the R&D submission.
Yes, but there are times, or many times, we're sitting down with the accounts and the corporation tax, and we've identified of areas where they could have done something else with the asset to make the R&D claim more beneficial and more beneficial to the business. Sometimes we look at what people could do with their IP.
Right.
So there is a bit of general help and advice, but it's all around that technology point of view. But you're getting someone to come in to look at your innovation work and get the best out of, make that innovation work for you before it starts brings the commercial side of it in.
Yeah. And what are the more unusual areas of innovation that you've claimed on behalf of clients for?
Oh, I mean, it can be anything. Talking about space technology, quantum computing, and for some people, and there's been a lot of talk about blueberry croissants and stuff like that in the news about what is an R&D. But for some people, how they make things quicker and better by what they've done to their processes. It's not a case of just moving things around, but some of the really clever ideas that they've come up with, that they've spent a long time trying to make work.
Yeah.
It's really interesting how they've make things much more environmentally friendly and sustainable as well. So it's the same product, but how they've done it in a better way for the environment. So it can be anything. Right. And that's what's so exciting. I mean, I'm sorry, you just go and talk about numbers. We talk about far more exciting things.
Yeah.
But they go together.
Yeah, they do. They do kind of marry up, indeed. So if I'm running a restaurant and I create a new recipe, that's nothing. That's not R&D. Nothing. Might be tasty.
It could be very tasty. I've had calls from people, sourdough, especially during lockdown. We've all learned how to do different flavours of sourdough bread, and lots of trialing and experimenting, a lot of failure. Sorry, that is not advancing science and technology.
No, but tasty.
But very tasty.
Yeah.
Thank you all for watching. Thank you, Ronny, for your expert descriptions of everything that you do. Now, if anything we've discussed today you would like extra information on, or you feel that you've got some business needs that you'd like to discuss, then please get in contact. Get in contact with us. We'll put you in contact with the right people. Ronny's really busy out and about running around at his clients' sites. So come to us centrally and we'll make sure that we can answer your questions.
Thank you.